Okay, guys, got a little bit of a haul going on here. Been to a couple of different places. I had it's Memorial Day weekend, so there's a place called Hillsville, Virginia, that turns the whole town into basically a flea market twice a year. The Memorial Day weekend is much smaller than what they do on Labor Day. Labor Day is the one where they claim there's like 1,000,000 people that come to see that little town and stuff. And I've hit a little shop here and there around here. Over the last few weeks and picked up a few things and got everything pretty cheap. So one of the first things I popped up is Volume 3 of Miracle Man being published by Marvel. This is, of course, by Alan Moore and a couple people, and it's really, I got this super cheap, man. It's amazing how this thing came out. They tried to hype it up, and I don't know if it's a success or not. But it's very surreal for me to see this series. Back in the 80s, it was coming here through Eclipse, and it came out really sporadically, if you could find it, at least in my area. No comic book shops around here. They were an hour away, and every now and then you'd have a friend that'd have a few issues here, and this is when Alan Moore was very hot. But this is Olympus Volume 3. This finishes up the issues that Alan Moore did before Neil Gaiman came on. And I tell you what, for me, I can't be objective. For me, it holds up. But the series was really, back in the day, the series was a little bit taboo. Basically, it's another attempt of Alan Moore to show, superheroes in the real world, if you will, and it brings in aliens, real life violence, some very adult themes. And really groundbreaking when this came out, and we've come a long way since then. So I like it. If you're an Alan Moore fan, I'd say get it. Another thing I got is I got a hardback, which I'm very happy. Lock and Key Volume 1, Welcome to Lovecraft. 6 volumes to this. And now I have Volumes 1, 5, and 6 in hardback. I've yet to read Volumes 2, 3, and 4. But last year at Heroes Con, there was a table where they had this one whole table, this one vendor, had $3 soft covers, no matter how big they were. If it was a soft cover, it's $3. And they had these for hardbacks for $5. And I ended up getting a soft cover of Volume 1, and then I ended up getting the hard covers of 5 and 6. And I kind of blew it off because I have sporadic issues of Lock and Key in all of its volumes and never really got it. And then you sit down and you read the whole thing. And holy crap, from where you go in Volume 1 all the way to Volume 6, it is a freaking journey, man. And I'm a huge advocate for this book to actually be made into a TV series or a movie or something. And I think one of the reasons that I can say this and stuff is when you read this, it does not read like a movie script. He serves the story with all its characters in it. I think I did a review or something at one point. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look at that video, see if it's worth watching. Okay, so some of the stuff that I got at the flea market, I got all 3 of these for $1. Some of the stuff is going to go on eBay, but I don't know. I'm a fan of Grant Morrison's 3-issue series of We 3. And the Grant Morrison stuff, this is through Vertigo, through DC and Vertigo. If you're an animal lover, much like Grant Morrison is, you might really want to read this because it will break your heart. It is Grant Morrison and Frank Qualley doing some fantastic stuff in here. It's very cinematic. But the trick to reading Grant Morrison is to realize that he likes to connect all of his stories, no matter where he works, be it Marvel, DC, Vertigo, whatever. And We 3, there's 3 animals, a dog, cat, and a bunny, all cybernetically enhanced by the government to fight wars and stuff. They're like prototypes. But he also, he kind of connects it to his Wolverine work, okay? He turned Wolverine's whole idea of Weapon X into being Weapon 10. He brought in Phantom X. What was that guy's name? Charlie or something he ended up being? His name ended up being? I don't know. But anyway, Phantom X ended up being Weapon 13. So if you take that and you look at the We 3, it's a thinly veiled version of Weapon 3. The third stage of those experiments to make the perfect super soldier killer would have been animals. That's what they're saying. Then I found this. This is from, I think, 1994. I've had these a couple times, but this is early Deadpool appearance. This is Wolverine number 88. And it's got Adam Kubert doing the art, I think. And it really blows my mind because when he gets in here, he actually draws Deadpool much like Rob Liefeld. You know, that style and stuff. I'll be putting that on there. This was a 2-part story. So I had both parts before, and they sold really well on eBay, which surprised me. And then I just saw this. It was a #1. I read some of these back in the day when it came out, but here's Young Avengers #1. Kind of I wanted to see if it was Marvel's answer to, you know, the Teen Titans. But, man, a lot of people have it. And I'm thinking this is Volume 1, #1, and so on and so forth. I have to do this. I had a lot of sporadic issues. I think they had several reboots or relaunches of this book or what have you. But Brian K. Vaughan, Runaways. Here's #1. And I'm not going to be honest, I bought these. I didn't quite pay $1 a piece for them. I did something off this vendor where I told him I had this much money and he just let me have them. So I'm going to go ahead and say 75 cents a piece. But Runaways, I keep hearing about maybe a TV show or something, a movie or something. I don't really follow it. I like Brian K. Vaughan. So, you know, I'll probably read this before I put these on eBay. I had quite a few of these at one time that I got out of a quarter box a couple years ago. And when I put them on eBay, they sort of took off there. But I don't know. I'm not expecting that to happen twice. These have a little bit of bins in the back that I've just now noticed. Little dog ears on the back. Other than that, the books look pretty good, except for that. Another thing I got this because if I am remembering right, this is Secrets of Haunted House #31, first appearance of Mr. E. If you are a DC Vertigo fan, Neil Gaiman fan, during Neil Gaiman's 4-issue series of books of magic that came out in I think 1990, Mr. E was part of the Trenchcoat Brigade. Phantom Stranger. Who were they? Dr. Occult, Phantom Stranger, John Constantine, and Mr. E. Mr. E is the one who went nuts. They've really turned up some of his religious aspects, and he's also blind. But I think he was like a vampire hunter who was blind, and his name is Mr. E, a play on mystery. That's his first appearance. I think that was a 2-part story. I think some of these are just upgrades. I already have them, but I've got DC Comics Presents number 53. And this is a 16 issue. First of all, I'm a huge fan of Cain and Abel. I love those guys, the House of Mystery and House of Secrets. And also they got used in Sandman by Neil Gaiman, you know. But this also has a preview of the Atari Force comic that was going to come out. And I think I probably already had this, but this thing was in beautiful shape. I'm looking to complete this series from the 70s, the Bronze Age, Howard the Duck. I think Steve Gerber left around issue 26 or 27, so I'm not expecting this to be Steve Gerber. I think Bill Mantlo came on, and they might have had a few fill-in artists and stuff, but this is probably near the end of the series. I think the series only ran 33 issues or something, 34. But, some Dr. Bong, and the Steve Gerber issues are brilliant. Now, here's what's amazing. Now, I've had these. I got these a couple years ago, right? Black Lightning 2 and 3, Tony Isabella, the series. He fights the 100 gang or whatever they're called and stuff. And I have never, even at comic book conventions over the years, and I briefly may have looked for it before just out of curiosity years ago and stuff, but all of a sudden they announced the TV show, they throw out a few teasers out there, and I ran across this. I got this for I think $1 or maybe $2, but a beat up copy of Black Lightning #1, and wouldn't you know it, Rick Buckler. It's a Rick Buckler cover, and the dude just died. He's in a lot of this Bronze Age stuff that I ended up buying today, so that was kind of cool. Chipping away at my Crisis. I just keep an eye out for Crisis crossovers, Secret Wars 2 crossovers, any kind of those events from the 80s and the early 90s. I'm just kind of completing. I think I completed War of the Gods. I'm not sure. But anyway, here's a Wonder Woman 328. This, if I had this is definitely an upgrade. And even before the Wonder Woman movie was announced, these Wonder Woman Crisis issues were getting a little bit pricey. Now, back in like 2008, I think is when I had the second time that I'd been ripped off in comics, and I was sure it was somebody that I knew because I didn't know how long when they'd actually ripped me off. What had happened was I was living by myself, and I come home and I finally started going through my boxes, my comic book boxes and stuff, and I started noticing it took a little while, but I started looking for one comic and couldn't find it, even though I was in the run. And then I started noticing that the box wasn't packed as tight as I usually keep them. And then I started noticing that many of the boxes weren't packed as tight and stuff. And this is why I think it was someone I knew, because they didn't really take some money books they could have. It was like they went through and they just cherry picked certain books that they needed, certain first appearances and stuff. But they didn't rip me off with some, high dollar books I had at the time. So, I think if a guy's going to rip you off, and who knows, and how could you even know? Why would you go into somebody's house? Anyway, I can go on. Why do you go into somebody's house and just hit the comic books? You had to know the comics were there to begin with. Anyway, but moving on. Some of the books I replaced finally that they took was Wonder Woman number 7, 6, 7, and 9, and a few other issues were taken out of the George Perez Wonder Woman had. I bought those off the stands. The early issues. Anything after, well, actually, I think anything after Millennium, I think, would have been where I quit collecting. But anyway, number 7, that's the first appearance of Barbara, who becomes the Cheetah. I think that's her name. It's really wild seeing this. Now, this Wonder Woman series by George Perez, let me skip ahead here. Here's number 9. She becomes the Cheetah. A little bit of this book's gaining some steam. I think everybody's expecting a few things. But George Perez's run, Lin Wein, and then George Perez kind of took over everything. Lin Wein worked with him on it and scripted and plotted and co-plotted and everything like that. To me, that is the ultimate run of Wonder Woman. To me, it's right up there with the Byrne Claremont X-Men, things like that. The John Byrne Fantastic Four, the Kirby Lee run of Fantastic Four. Issue 91. I need issue 90 of Wonder Woman. Really excited about the movie. And then I picked up a few things for a friend. I already had these. This is issue 69 of the Sandman, where Morpheus' travels are complete and Daniel starts. And then this is Convergence this is Sandman Convergence. This is issue number 38, The Wild Hunt. So she likes that. Then I got another one of these. This is one of those. I got a few books that I always grab when I see them, but this is Secret Origins number 36. And this has a Neil Gaiman story. Secret Origins is telling Green Lantern, retelling of Green Lantern's origin. Then we get to see Poison Ivy's origin retold by Neil Gaiman. Very cool. One of the most underrated runs in comics would be Keith Giffen and Paul Levitz's run on Legion of Superheroes, and right snap dab in the middle of it. This is an upgrade for me. But this is issue 301 with a fantastic Chameleon Boy story with his dad. They're on a savage planet and he's trying to get his powers back, and he's got to do it through a tribe on this post-apocalyptic world he grew up, and it's really good. Issue 301. And this is like my third or fourth copy of Legion of Superheroes 300, and that's always grabbing that. I grabbed Legion of Superheroes 298. This is also the first appearance of Amethyst from the 80s. And I'm telling you, man, the way they're mining things for comics and TVs and stuff, it really seems like I heard something somewhere that it was in the works or being thought about, or somebody was approached. But I really feel like that Amethyst, this series from the 80s, I really feel like it's going to be picked up for a cartoon sometime in the future. I don't know. I can feel it being a cartoon. I don't know. Really excited to see this because I saw this in the ads of the comic books I read when I was little, and I always would want to check out these books that they showed in those old house ads and everything like that. But one of these this is DC Superstars number 3, and it's Legion of Superheroes. This has Jim Shooter's story in it. Pretty sure these are just reprints, but I'm not sure. But we have Tales of the Adult Legion. As a Legion fan, I'm like, okay, this is cool. They actually had Superman come into the future of the Legion, and in the story he goes through the Hall of Fallen Heroes, or whatever they call them, and at this point in time some of those characters had actually not been introduced, so it was kind of fun to see them go back with what Shooter had done and stuff. So yeah, that was kind of very cool to find. And grabbed me a Neil Gaiman cover, World's Finest. I posted a picture out of this on Facebook last night where Batman gets turned into like a wereback creature and busts out of his costume. And this, of course, Neil Gaiman has his fans. It's a fantastic cover, but Philip Jose Farmer Garcia Lopez drew it much better on the inside. And wouldn't you know it, it has some continued stories of Black Lightning in it and stuff. So it's like he's popping up everywhere. And last but not least, I got these both for $1. Of the old comic books that came with the Sektor comics back in like 83 or 84, probably around 84. Actually, I played with my brothers, and I would sit there and flip through his comics that came with those toys. I have a few of the He-Man also. Those are really cool to find. And might as well show this. I can't believe I found this, but it's for $2. I found this for $2. We got a Funko Pop of Charlie Brown. So yeah, we'll just set that there. Okay, guys, y'all have a great weekend, and see you later.